Finally, the Independent National Electoral Commission has put to rest the issue of the continuous voter registration. During a mega concert in Abuja, INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu confirmed that the exercise will be extended and more machines be deployed for voters' registration. He added that INEC will not stop the exercise until it is satisfied that Nigerians who want to register do so.
When will your PVCs be ready for collection? I want to assure you that the PVCs will be ready for collection latest October this year, long before the election. So all of you will have your PVCs. I want to thank you for making the PVC the most popular ID card in Nigeria today. Nothing beat the PVC. HT was good. Oshun is going to be better. 2023 will be the best. Your votes will count.
The energy is palpable. The determination of the young people is obvious. So the commission promised to stop the registration on the 30th of June. By what I saw today and what we are seeing nationwide, I assured the young people here and all Nigerians that the registration will not end on the 30th of June, will extend.
The extension of the continuous voter registration did not just come on the platter of gold. Well, this followed a series of meetings and discussions with Nigeria's House of Representatives. We have in the studio the man that moved the motion for the extension of the exercise, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, who is also the spokesperson, House of Representatives. He'll also be looking at the recent Supreme Court judgment on the Section 8412 of the Electoral Act, which affirmed the position of the Parliament on that particular matter. Good to have you join me this evening, Honorable Benjamin.
Thank you for having me.
Let's, before we go to the question of the Affirmation Court granting the Parliament reasons to celebrate and beat their chest, let's talk about this issue. I mean, that you saw to it that INEC had to do what they did, which was extend the voter registration. Speak to that.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, the purpose of having the Parliament is to be there to help fill the pulse of the nation and use legislative intervention to bridge the gap. To be insensitive or to pretend not to hear what was happening around the country with regards to the trunks of people looking to be registrants who want to be part of this participatory democracy. To feign ignorance is to live in the fool's paradise, like I always say. We saw it, and we knew that INEC has not taken a definite position on that. And since government and good governance runs with three arms of government, our input became necessary based on our consultations and engagements we've had with different segments of the society. Their desire was one. We want to have the opportunity not to be disenfranchised. We want to be registered. We are now more interested in politics in Nigeria because the integrity level of INEC has gone up, because we now believe our votes will count. And the such has never been experienced before. Both in Nigeria, Africa, and the world over, Nigeria has gotten the highest trunk of people, you know, insisting to be registered to participate in a democratic process. We cannot see that and keep quiet. So that was why I look at the report of INEC, and I saw that from the time they started 28th of June 2021 with this new registration, that about 42% of the captured registrants were invalid registration. And 42% is almost half of the work they did. By the time they went through the cleaning exercise, you know, to have a perfect register, they found out that 42% was not, you know, a valid registration. Now, because of one error or the other, not from INEC, but from people who were doing multiple registration and not the rest of them. And also, I discovered that 20 million of the permanent voters' card were not collected by Nigerians. And we are talking about advancing our democracy. And we are talking about participatory democracy. And the yearning of the people out there is that we want to be involved. I saw, at the time I moved the motion, that INEC had only 2 weeks to the expiration of the 30th June deadline. And I knew there was no magic wand they were going to use to accomplish that enormous task, to have all these people
in the system,
capture all these people from various registration points into the system. And as I said, let us not, allow them get suffocated and probably mess up the data they have collected so far. Let's extend, especially when it is in line with the Electoral Act that says INEC, has up to 90 days before the next election to get this done. I'll come to that, whether or not the interpretation of that. But there was still space for INEC to extend. I also saw that beyond the congestion of all the polling, the registration centers, it was not just about the number of people coming. It was that they did not have sufficient machines.
And that's where I was going to.
Yeah. So
I'm sure you've seen what is happening in the East.
Yeah, definitely. I just came back from the East.
Youths are really all out to register. And in one particular video I watched, a girl was just screaming, how can they give one machine for a whole local government? And that seemed to be the same across, the East. And sometimes you can't help but get people begin to think in a way as if they are trying to disenfranchise them in the East. That may not be it, but that is what it looks like. So how are you? I know it's not directly your function, but how are you helping INEC on whatever way?
I'm a member of the Electoral Matters Committee of the House, and I'm the spokesperson of the House. And it is my interest, and I'm part of the ruling party in Nigeria, it is my interest to make sure that we function efficiently and effectively to the satisfaction of the people that we are governing. So I'm a stakeholder, and that's what motivated my interest. That was what activated my interest. And you are right when you said what is happening maybe in the southeastern region, people are complaining about mention. It's true. But I don't think it was a deliberate act. It's happening in Rivers State. It's happening in Kalu. It's happening in FCT. It's happening in Lagos. You see, like my federal constituency runs from the borders of Akwa Ibom State to the borders of Ebonyi State. Do you know how many machines that we have? 2. And there is no how you will use 2 machines to capture the size of a federal constituency that is, up to 3 local governments in one. You can't use 2 and achieve the great result you want to get. So what we were experiencing, I was there, I witnessed it. You use the town criers to announce in the rural area. I represent a rural community. Now they will all leave their farms and their market and they come and queue. So in a particular registration point, you have about 300 to 400 people coming out. Now when the machine comes, the machine can only capture about 100. And it is the end of the day.
So what is
so when you call them to come back again, it's a problem. So what is being done about is that I captured it in this motion to give it the legislative teeth and legislative support to INEC to find a solution. We invited them. One of the prayers was for them to come. Yeah. And I must say this, I am very impressed that the current chairman of INEC and their team responded immediately. That invitation was sent to them. Despite the fact that they were busy with the Ekiti election and various other by-election, because many Nigerians think that what INEC is just doing is to wait till 2023 and conduct election, or what INEC is doing is just to do a registration. No, INEC is busy with so many by-elections, which is what we are going to look at in the legislature to see how we can look at these by-election, especially when it's close to the next election, whether 6 months to the election, what happens to by-election, and 1 year to the election, what happens to by-election. So, but when they came, we had a good interactive section when the chairman took his time with the commissioners to explain, their difficulties, the success they've made so far, and what the understanding of the Electoral Act with regards to the timelines given to them on 90 days publication of all these register, 90 days publication of the aspirant, the candidates of various parties, and all those publications. And they ran into millions of publications they're going to do that will be pasted across the nation, the 774 local government. If we ask INEC to wait till 90 days to the next election, that would be doing injustice to us and to INEC, because they would not be efficient with their logistics in organizing the main election.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is for them to do their own analysis to find out whether the 60 days I propose in my motion is adequate to have this achieved, or insufficient to have this achieved, or whether they should give us, if we're asking for 60 days, they can give us 30 days or thereabout. Yeah. But I'm not sure INEC is going to give us an extension of time that will extend till the 90 days to the next election.
All right.
So we are hopeful. The body language of INEC was to the fact that they have seen the pain, in Nigeria and the agitation for the registration, and they're going to do something. And I'm happy to hear what he just said now during their last outing, that he actually said, we are now willing to extend. But the number of days for extension is not yet known. But what I know is that INEC is going to extend the number of days in the week.
What they've said.
To include the weekend. They are also going to extend the number of hours, for this engagement.
Well, they've said until people get registered.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, let's talk about 8412. The Supreme Court has given the Parliament a nod that they did what they were supposed to do. I'm sure that the Parliament, they're beating their chest and saying, yeah, we did. So
it's not about beating our chest. It's not about us. That 8412 was not self-serving. The issue is that that judgment was unequivocally lucid and heartwarming. It's a victory for our democracy. It's a victory for our rule of law. I say so because the Supreme Court, had a periscopic view, an all-round view of the purposive intention of the legislature. I'm happy. I am very happy.
It shows.
You know why I'm happy? We cannot be talking about, advancing our democracy without respecting the ethos, the principles of democracy. They have highlighted the essence of having doctrine of separation of power, which advocates the three lanes that leads to good governance: the lane of the judiciary, the lane of the executive, the lane of the legislature. And they are saying, let everyone stay for the sake of efficiency.
Do you think that the president was ill-advised?
The issue is not about ill-advised or not ill-advised. I don't want to go into that space. The issue remains that Mr. President played a role in the making of 8412 at the time he assented to it. Remember, it was executive bill which we worked on and passed, and it never infringed on any existing constitutional provision. So we never lost our sleep when it went to the Court of First Instance, from there to the Appellate Court, the Court of Appeal. We had confidence that the justices of the Supreme Court are thorough, erudite scholars who are knowledgeable in the law of this our country. And I was confident that at the end of the day, that their pronouncement will showcase the fact that when it comes to legislative supremacy, it lies with the legislature. And by announcing that, they are re-emphasizing, for the sake of efficiency in government, for the sustenance of our democracy, doctrine of separation of power must at all times be obeyed,
be maintained.
And that is going to help. It's very healthy
for democracy.
For the democracy.
Thank you so much. That's the spokesperson for the House of Reps, Benjamin Kalu. Thank you for being here with us. We're still discussing. So where do we go from here in terms of the president is of your party, and the House of Reps is populated by APC? Do you see this causing a rift between the presidency and the House of Reps, even though he is on his way out by next year?
Mr. President, I was in a meeting before once we became candidates of the party. We had a meeting in the villa, and I always like quoting Mr. President. He said, "I've done all I have to do in my life. I just want to retire, leaving legacies." It wasn't about him. He said he's coming the second tenure. It's not about him. So he's legacy driven, and he's very matured. And let me tell you, Mr. President already implemented this provision of 8412 before even the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, when in his wisdom, he advised his generals, the people working with him, his ministers, and say, if you are aspiring to go into any position, you better leave this one. And what more can you say? He already knew what is going to be the outcome of that particular interpretation that was coming up. So there is not going to be rift.
And the party too. The party, I know that the chairman even told the line of 8412 and said, if you're affected by this, step aside.
The chairman is a lawyer himself, and these are experienced politicians who knows we strayed the law. They saw the intention of the legislature in the law, and they said, and that was what we complied with in our Congress, in our convention. We were very careful not to go against 8412, and I can raise my shoulder to say that my party complied with 8412 before the pronouncement of the Supreme Court. So going forward, it is increasing the competitive element of credible election. You cannot advance democracy without seeking for credible election in your effort towards electoral reform. And if you are seeking credible election, transparency is an element that must be respected. Accountability is an element that must be respected. Competitiveness is an element that must be respected.
Right,
fairness. And this 8412 has to do with competitiveness and fairness, so that every man appears before the ballot box equal.
All right. I know that your Speaker of the House and even the Senate President, they were lamenting about the turnover of NAS members. And there seems to be, the fallout is that APC Senate House of Reps seem to be losing quite a lot of members to the opposition party. Speak to that.
Well, the Speaker has mentioned it, that the intention of the legislature when we went for, I think it was 84-8, was to ensure that, when we went for direct primaries, was to ensure that the people take decision based on the popularity of those they want to send to because this is based on popularity, it's based on acceptance of the people. And that was why we were insisting initially, before we were asked to put indirect and consensus. There are consequences when you partake in indirect primaries. And that what we're feeling now is the consequences of indirect primaries. And it is painful that the parliament is losing good hands, not because they are not wanted by their people, but because those who call the shots with regards to who becomes a delegate, who they want to go represent, which we are trying to avoid in our electoral reform exercise. They won, and the people lost. Some places don't have governors. So there are some places that don't have governors. Like in my party, I don't have a governor in Abia State. And there are some states that don't have governors. So it's about those who have been given the opportunity to be in charge. If you don't allow the people to select, and you select the ones you are happy with, at the end of the day, this kind of crisis is what you get. But I'm sure my party is working hard to make sure that we remain in the majority. Well, we will remain in the majority. We will be in the majority.
We'll see how
we are confident about that, and we are working hard to make sure that we don't lose our majority
losing our members.
Well, are you saying that APC lost more members than other political parties?
Well, we'll see how that.
So when you prorate it, you find out that we are still in majority.
All right.
You know?
Thank you so much for being here. That's the spokesperson
Thank you for having
of
me.
the House of Reps, Benjamin Kalu.
All right.